Struggle is not a sign that something is going wrong in your life. It is usually a sign that something important is finally beginning. When you decide to move beyond comfort, when you choose discipline over ease, and when you commit yourself to growth, struggle becomes part of the process, not an exception to it. Most people assume that success should feel smooth once they are on the right path. But that belief is what causes many to quit too early. In reality, the path itself is what builds you. Think about anything that becomes strong in the real world. A tree does not grow roots in calm weather. It grows them when the wind pushes against it. The resistance forces it to dig deeper into the ground so it does not fall. In the same way, your struggles are not there to break you. They are there to anchor you. Every difficult phase in your life is quietly forcing you to develop stability, patience, and resilience. Without pressure, there is no depth. Strength. When you start something new, whether it is building a career, improving your body, learning a skill, or changing your mindset, you step into unfamiliar territory. That unfamiliarity is you uncomfortable because your mind prefers what it already knows. So the early stage always feels heavy. You might question yourself. You might feel like others are moving faster. You might even feel like you are not good enough. But that phase is not a warning sign. It is the entry fee for growth. Everyone who has achieved something meaningful has passed through that exact stage where nothing feels natural yet and everything feels difficult. The problem is that most people misinterpret struggle. Instead of seeing it as training, they see it as failure. Instead of thinking this is shaping me, they think this is not for me. That shift in interpretation changes everything. Two people can face the same level of difficulty, but one grows stronger while the other gives up. Not because the situation is different, but because the meaning they assign to it is different. Struggle also exposes your true habits and mindset. When things are easy, anyone can look disciplined, but when things get hard, your real character shows up. Do you continue when no one is watching? Do you push forward when results are not immediate? Do you stay consistent when motivation disappears? These are the moments so that quietly decide who you are becoming. It is not the absence of struggle that defines success, but how you respond when struggle shows up repeatedly. There is also a hidden truth that most people only understand later. Struggle does not last forever in the same form. It evolves. The problems you face today will not be the same problems you face after you grow. What feels overwhelming now will eventually feel manageable. What once broke your confidence will later feel like a basic step. That shift is what getting stronger really means. Life does not remove challenges. It upgrades you so you can handle better ones. So when you are in the middle of difficulty, it is important to stop expecting the road to suddenly become easy. Instead, focus on becoming stronger than what is in front of you. Because the truth is simple and unchanging. The path rarely gets easier, but the person walking it does become stronger. Pain is often misunderstood. Most people see it as a warning, something to escape from as quickly as possible. But in reality, pain is one of the clearest signs that you are not standing still anymore. It shows up when you are stretching beyond your current limits. You are breaking old habits, and when you are forcing yourself into a version of life that you have never lived before. If everything always felt comfortable, nothing inside you would ever change. When you start growing, pain becomes part of the process, because growth requires resistance. Think about physical training. When you lift weights, your muscles don't get stronger during the lift itself. They get stronger after, when the tiny tears created by stress repair and rebuild. Without that stress, there is no repair. And without repair, there is no growth. The same principle applies to your mind and your life. Emotional pressure, mental challenges, and difficult situations are not there to destroy you. They are there to rebuild you in a stronger form. The problem is that many people interpret pain as a stop sign. The moment something feels uncomfortable, they assume it is wrong. Discomfort is not the same as danger. In fact, most meaningful progress lies on the other side of discomfort. If you always avoid progress, you cannot separate the two. The very things that feel heavy in the moment are often the exact things shaping your future strength. Pain also has a way of revealing what you are truly capable of. Before you go through it, you might underestimate yourself. You might think you are limited in ways you are not, but when life puts pressure on you, something shifts inside. You discover patience you didn't know you had. You find discipline you didn't think was possible. You learn to keep going even when your emotions are telling you to quit. That discovery is not theoretical. It only happens through experience. There is also a deeper truth. Pain refinesces your identity. When everything is easy, you don't question who you are. But when things get hard, you are forced to decide what kind of person you want to be. Do you break? Or do you build? Do you quit? Or do you continue? Every painful moment becomes a quiet decision point that shapes your character over time. And the accumulation of those decisions is what creates strength. Another important thing to understand is that pain is temporary, but the strength it builds can last a lifetime. The difficult moments you are going through right now will not stay forever. Situations change, circumstances shift, but what you become in the process of facing them stays with you. You carry that resilience into everything that comes next. That is why people who have been through hardship often handle future challenges with more stability. They are not immune to pain, but they are no longer controlled by it. Pain also builds awareness. It forces you to pay attention to your thoughts, your habits, and your reactions. It strips away distractions and makes you more honest with yourself. In that space, you begin to see what needs to change. You begin to understand what has been holding you back. And that awareness is often the first step toward real transformation. So instead of asking how to avoid pain, the better question is how to grow through it. Because pain is not proof that you are failing. It is proof that you are evolving. And every time you endure it, instead of escaping it, you are not just surviving the moment. You are building a stronger version of yourself for everything that lies ahead. Motivation feels powerful in the beginning, but it is one of the most unreliable forces in human behavior. It comes and goes depending on mood, environment, energy, and circumstances. One day you feel unstoppable, and the next day even small tasks feel heavy. If you depend only on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent because motivation is emotional, and emotions are unstable. That is why people often start strong but fade out before they see real results. Consistency works differently. It does not rely on how you feel in the moment. It relies on what you have decided to do regardless of how you feel. It is not about intensity on good days, but discipline on ordinary days. The people who achieve lasting success are not always the most inspired. They are the most reliable. They show up even when there is no excitement, no applause, and no immediate reward. Think about how real change happens in life. It is rarely the result of one powerful effort. Instead, it is the result of repeated small actions done over time. One workout does not transform a body. 1 hour of study does not create mastery. One attempt does not build a career. But repeated effort, even when it feels small or insignificant, compounds into something powerful. Consistency turns effort into identity. Over time, you stop being someone who is trying and you become someone who simply does it. The challenge is that consistency does not give instant feedback. 1T often feels like nothing is happening in the beginning. You put in effort, but results seem slow or invisible. This is where most people quit. They assume that slow progress means no progress. But in reality, most growth happens quietly before it becomes visible. Just like seeds grow underground before breaking the surface, your efforts are building something even when you cannot see it yet. Motivation would have you believe that success should feel exciting every day. Consistency teaches you something different. It teaches you that real progress often feels repetitive. There will be days when you do not feel like continuing. Days when everything feels routine, and days when you question whether it is worth it. But those are exactly the days that matter most. Anyone can work hard when they feel inspired. The real difference comes when you continue without inspiration. Another important aspect of consistency is that it builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you strengthen your self-discipline. You start believing in your own word. And that belief becomes powerful when you trust yourself. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stand up waiting for the perfect mood to act. You simply act because that is who you are becoming. Over time, consistency removes the need for constant decision-making. Instead of debating whether to work, study, practice, or improve, it becomes a natural part of your life. It becomes automatic. That is when real transformation happens. Not through bursts of energy, but through steady repetition. There is also a compounding effect that most people underestimate. Small, consistent actions build momentum. At first, progress feels slow, but as time passes, each effort begins to build on the previous one. What once required effort starts becoming easier. What once felt heavy starts becoming natural, and eventually what once felt impossible becomes your normal standard. The truth is simple. Motivation might start the journey, but it cannot carry you through it. Consistency is what keeps you moving when motivation disappears. It is what separates intention from achievement. And in the end, success is not built by occasional effort, but by repeated action, even on the days when nothing inside you feels like moving forward. Most people believe success is about desire. They think if they want something badly enough, it will eventually come to them. But life doesn't work on desire alone. Wanting something is easy. Almost everyone wants a better body, more money, a successful career, or a peaceful life. The real question is not what you want, but what you are able to handle while trying to get it. Life does not reward intention. It rewards endurance. There's a difference between dreaming about a goal and carrying the weight that comes with it. Every goal worth achieving comes with pressure attached. That pressure might be responsibility, rejection, failure, uncertainty, criticism, or long periods of slow progress. Many people are not stopped by lack of ability, but by lack of tolerance for pressure. When you look closely at people who succeed, you will notice something important. They are not always the most talented. They are often the ones who can stay steady when things become uncomfortable. They can take setbacks without collapsing. They can deal with uncertainty without quitting. They can handle emotional stress without losing direction. In simple terms, they can carry more without breaking. This is what you get. What you handle means. Life tests you no to just by what you want, but by what you can endure while moving toward it. Two people can start with the same dream. One gives up when things become difficult while the other continues despite the pressure. The difference is not desire. The difference is capacity. Capacity is built slowly. It is not something you are born with in its final form. It develops through experience, repetition, and exposure to difficulty. Every time you face something hard and do not quit, your capacity expands. Every time you feel overwhelmed but still continue, your tolerance grows. You become more stable under pressure. What once felt unbearable starts to feel manageable. This is why challenges are not obstacles to success. They are part of the process of increasing your capacity to receive success. If everything came too easily, you would not be prepared to hold on to it. Without pressure, there is no development of strength. Without difficulty, there is no expansion of endurance. Think about responsibility in real life. When you are given more, you are also expected to handle more. More success means more decisions, more expectations, more risks, and more visibility. If you cannot handle pressure at a smaller level, you will struggle at a higher level. That is why life often tests people before giving them bigger opportunities. It is not punishment. It is preparation. There is also a mental side to this. Handling pressure is not just about external situations, but internal stability. It is about how you respond when things do not go your way. Do you panic or adjust? Do you quit or adapt? You break under stress or learn from it. These responses shape your future more than talent ever will over time. People who learn to handle more begin to notice something interesting. What once stressed them no longer has the same effect. Problems that once felt huge become smaller in perspective. Situations that once caused anxiety become manageable. This is not because life became easier, but because they became stronger. That is the core truth behind this idea. Life does not simply give you what you want, it gives you what you are prepared to carry. And preparation is built through experience, not theory. Every difficult moment you survive increases your ability to handle the next one. Every pressure you endure adds to your strength. So the real focus is not just chasing outcome ease, but building the capacity to handle what comes with them, because in the end, success is not just about wanting more. It is about becoming someone who can carry more without falling apart. Failure is often treated like the end of the road, but in reality, it is more like a checkpoint that most people misunderstand. When something doesn't work out, the natural reaction is disappointment. It feels like rejection, like proof that you are not capable. But failure is rarely about your ability. More often it is about information. It is feedback showing you what needs adjustment, what needs improvement, and what direction is not working. Every successful person has a long history of things that did not work. What separates them from those who stop is not that they avoided failure, but that they refused to interpret it as final. Instead of seeing failure as a verdict, they see it as data. Each mistake carries information that brings them closer to what actually works. In that sense, failure is not a well. It is a guide. When you repeat something and it doesn't produce the result you want, you are not wasting time. You are learning the boundaries of the process. You are discovering what is missing, what is weak, or what needs to change. That learning is not always obvious in the moment, but it accumulates over time, and eventually it becomes the foundation of skill. Think about any real mastery. No one becomes good at anything without repetition. And repetition without failure is almost impossible. You try, you miss, you adjust, and you try again. That cycle is how competence is built. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the path that leads to it. The problem is that most people personalize failure. They turn an outcome into an identity. Instead of saying this didn't work, they say I am not good enough. That shift is dangerous because it stops growth. When failure becomes identity, people stop trying. But when failure is seen as an event, something separate from who you are, it becomes easier to continue. There is also something important about repetition that comes with failure. The first attempt is rarely the one that works. The second rarely fixes everything. It is usually the 10th, the 50th, or even the 100th attempt that brings clarity. But each attempt removes uncertainty. Each attempt sharpens your understanding. You start noticing patterns. You begin to understand timing, strategy, and effort in a deeper way. Failure also builds resilience in a quiet but powerful way. Every time you face it and continue, you weaken the fear around it. At first, failure feels heavy because it is unfamiliar. But over time, it becomes familiar. And when something becomes familiar, it loses its power to intimidate you. That is when real confidence begins to form, not from success, but from surviving setbacks. Another hidden truth is that failure often redirects people toward better paths. What looks like a setback in the moment can actually be protection from something that was not right for you. Sometimes you fail at something not because you are not capable, but because there is a better direction waiting that you would not have considered otherwise. In that sense, failure is not just correction. It is guidance. The difference between those who grow and those who stop is simple. Some people see failure as a signal to quit, while others see it as a signal to adjust. One leads to stagnation, the other leads to progress. Neither avoids failure, but their interpretation of it defines their outcome. Over time, representative failure turns into experience. And experience is what transforms uncertainty into skill. What once felt confusing becomes familiar. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. And what once felt like failure becomes part of the process that built your ability. So failure is not proof that you are stuck. It is proof that you are in motion. It shows that you are attempting, learning, adjusting, and growing. And every time you continue after it, you are not starting over. You are continuing with more knowledge than before, moving one step closer to success through every lesson it leaves behind. Real growth rarely happens when everything around you is visible. It does not happen in moments of applause, validation, or recognition. Those moments may feel rewarding, but they are not where your real transformation is built. The most important changes in a person happen when no one is watching, when there is no pressure to perform, and when there is no audience to impress. That is where discipline is formed and character is shaped. When you are alone, you are fully responsible for your choices. There is no external force pushing you, reminding you, or correcting you. In that space, your habits either strengthen or weaken. What you do in private eventually becomes what you are in public. If you waste time when no one is watching, it will show in your results. If you stay consistent in silence, it will show in your progress. Life always reflects what you practice when no one is around. Many people underestimate the power of unseen effort. They focus only on outcomes, not on the quiet process that creates those outcomes. But every strong result in life is built through repeated actions that often go unnoticed. The hours of practice, the moments of discipline, the small decisions to continue when it would have been easier to stop. These are the things that shape success long before it becomes visible to others. Silence is where excuses are most powerful, but also where strength is built. When no one is there to judge you, it becomes easier to skip effort, delay responsibility, or avoid discomfort. That is why self-discipline matters so much. It is the ability to do what needs to be done even when there is no external pressure. It is choosing growth over comfort when no one is forcing you to choose at all. The truth is, your future is not shaped by what you do, occasionally in front of others. It is shaped by what you repeatedly do in private. A strong life is not built in moments of attention, but in hours of unseen effort. That is why two people can appear similar on the outside, but have completely different